now we can get onto the gameplay of City of Heroes. I will warn you that I'm using wireless instead. So it could crash or it could lag very badly, but it's probably wise to play online games not on a wireless network, but I don't have a choice in the matter. This character's already been through tutorial, he's already done the first story arc that everyone can do, and he's going to do the second arc. You have a choice between two people, and I've chosen the easier option because the other one is significantly harder. We're just going to load into Atlas Park now. It's been a revamp zone, it used to look a lot different. Like, the buildings look very blocky and like very blocky. They were just blocks with like windows painted onto them. These new ones, they actually look like proper buildings now. City Hall also got an update. Very nice. Hopefully they'll be doing this for the rest of the game, because when we get into the other zones you'll notice the difference straight away, namely in the loading time, but it's very obvious. Of course, there's more new zones being added rather than ones being updated, but meh. It's all instanced anyway. And the missions, that is. Which I'll explain later when we get onto doing one of them. If we get onto doing one of them. We do. Alright, just take a moment for everything to load. Alrighty. Let's see who... Sandra Costel. Hello there. It's night time at the moment, but the game doesn't run off world or server time. It changes from night to day just on its own over about 10 minutes or so. So it does seem a bit odd when it's daytime in the game, but it's really dark outside in real life. But there's not much you can do about that because it's established now. They can't change that. Go beat this guy up. My character's a brute, like the one from before, except he's using a battle axe and defending himself with sheer willpower. As you can see, the brute hits exceptionally hard, but that was quite a low level enemy. There's the same one. I'm just kind of like doing this so that people won't accuse me of being a bad hero later on, but I can't keep beating them all up. As you can see, this game has ragdoll physics, which is good, but it's a bit broken at the moment. They used to be quite normal ragdoll physics, but something happened, and you kind of like do some really scary stuff, like bend in ways that humans should not bend. Right. I'm just skipping through all of this dialogue because if you choose to play, you'll get to read it all. It's quite an interesting arc, I suppose, but compared to some of the later stuff you'll come across, it's... Now I have to go beat up these guys called Skulls. They're kind of like the opposites of Hellions, in a way. It's like Hellions, those ones I was fighting before, they dress in red, they kind of worship the devil. The Skulls are all about death, they wear black a lot, and they wear skulls on their face, obviously, skulls. They're basically the same, they have the same powers, except their bosses. Their bosses have different powers. Like the Hellion bosses use fire, whilst the Skull bosses use dark energy, netherworld energy to attack you with. See, I've got a few attacks at level 4, but I decided to take another defense ability so that I could resist a bit more damage. Resistance and defense in this game are quite complicated, but the basic gist of it is that resistance reduces the amount of damage you take, whilst defense stops you from taking damage full stop. Um, you can reduce an enemy's chance to hit you through defense to 5%, but you can never get it to 0, because all enemies have their instinctive 5% chance to hit, as do you. So if you ever come across an enemy, you always have a 5% chance to hit it. Of course, it depends which attack they hit you with in their 5%. It could be their weakest attack, or it could be their strongest attack. So you can see where it can... It's all down to luck, because the game runs everything through rolls. I don't know if you'll be able to see the combat thing. Yeah, I have a 95% chance to hit them with my abilities. They're very accurate, because it's pretty easy to swing an axe at somebody. Funnily enough, sword and war mace don't get the same treatment. They have a lower chance to hit than battle axe. Plus, all of battle axe's attacks have a chance to knock the enemy down. As you can see, I'm kind of like stun locking him. Some enemies are resistant or downright immune to knock back and knock down, so it's just the pure damage I'll be going off. You always have these inherent abilities as well. You have Sprint, which lets you run faster. You have Brawl, which is just a basic melee attack, just so you won't use it at high level. And then you get a ranged ability, a short ranged ability, depending on what your origin is. Mine's throwing knives because he's a natural. Right, now I need to go click on these objectives, which are just lying around. Well, they're quite at my level, so let me get some experience. The higher level enemies are much more fearsome than these guys. Basically, if you can't beat these guys, you don't really stand much of a chance. Like some of the high level groups, like one particular one called Malta, I mean, there's a very few people who can fight them like reliably, or well even, because they have these lovely guys called sappers. What they do is they blast you with this energy, and it takes your endurance over here, it takes it right down to 0. So it turns off all your toggles, you can't attack anything, and that of course is bad because you won't be able to defend yourself, thus they kill you. And technically you don't kill anyone in this game, you defeat them, like knock them unconscious or put them in a position so that they can't fight back, basically. Summarily they defeat you, you drop unconscious or something, and you activate this thing called a mediport, teleports you to a hospital. Even if you're a villain, it still says defeat, but since you're a villain we can kind of assume that you probably won't let them live. There are also options in the game where it'll say, do you want to kill so and so, and in that case you do actually kill them. This mission here, I take control of that NPC who has no abilities whatsoever, just for like some narrative sort of stuff. And she's still wielding my battle axe. But yeah, they haven't quite thought this through. There are points where you do take control of an NPC like this. It's basically just changing your costume. It gives you a power up here that changes you into this. But if you have any sort of like auras or weapons, or like if your character has a tail, it'll still show on the NPC. You have some hilarious things. Like most of these are kind of new sort of missions to City Heroes. Most of the old legacy missions are just like go into this office, beat up everyone there, or click this, click that. It's basically get X from Y. But I suppose like most RPGs can't avoid that. You will have to beat X of Y eventually. It could make for a great algebra boss. At some point I'll show you the mission architect where you can make your own missions. It's really, really good, but it's another thing for VIPs or buying it outright. Especially if you like being creative, making your own enemies, do that. Of course, the enemies are lacking in some places. They can only have certain abilities, and they tend to hit quite hard. On that thing, invention, that was salvage, wasn't it here? What you do with salvage is you either sell it, or you make inventions out of it. Now inventions are basically enhancements, which make your abilities stronger, so on, like that. I see that? Enhancement found, it'll go into here. Since I'm a VIP, I get to start with a few enhancements, which have some proc effects. Proc is where, like, it has a chance to do extra damage. These enhancements I can slot into my abilities, blah, 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 and they knock me down. That wasn't fair. Most of these are quite low level though, you level quite fast now. Oh wait, yeah, I was supposed to hand that in, then beat up these guys, you see? It's just kind of ingrained into me now how to do this whole tutorial thing, that I kind of forgot about the whole talking to contacts. You'll have to do that if you want more missions. You know, just a bit of lag. Doesn't really matter, the character's really tough, he's not really suffering any problems with these guys. No one really should, unless you get kind of ganged up on. They can gang up on you in this area. They respawn quite fast, and they're quite close together. Of course, for me, that is no trouble at all. In fact, one of my later abilities does rely on me getting ganged up on. Basically, most brute, like, secondary sets have an ability where you get a bonus for every enemy next to you. So, being ganged up on is a good thing. It does help tanks. But they're probably best served on a tanker, because they have this, like, passive taunting effect. Like, taunting is, like, well, it forces an enemy to attack you. So, if you're playing a brute and you have your area of effectability on, and you're not the tank, it can land you in some nasty situations, especially if you're not particularly survivable. Because brutes can be quite squishy, as they call it. Certainly tougher than blasters, or nothing, or anything without a dedicated defense set, but they will go squish if they're not properly built. Anyway, now we're going to go to one of the door missions. These missions are instance, which means when I go in here, no one will be able to follow me in. This is my mission, no one can come in. Unless I send them a team invite, of course. But I don't know anyone who's on at the moment. Well, actually there are quite a few people on. But I'm just doing the solo stuff for now. Later on I'll show some of the grouping opportunities there are in the lower levels, and they're quite good, considering they weren't there before. Or they were, but they were in a much more different form. Yeah, I probably should turn all these tips off, but I'd just like to read them for no reason. Lovely. There's that hero from before who I talked to. If you choose a different option, he becomes an enemy and you have to attack him. For no reason. Like, you can't stop this, blah blah blah. Well, no, not if you stood in my way. He's a brilliant guard. He's just kind of like, hey Jim, keep guard over the door. And he's like, alright, and then just like, looks the other way. Brilliant guard. Guard of the year. Some missions, they do ambush you as soon as you step through the door, so they're few and far between. Because that would not be very nice. And believe me, I've had it happen to me a few times when I'm not ready, and it's definitely not nice. Or if they have patrols, they can sometimes wander into the door area, and it goes downhill from there. Normally there are minions around here, it's all lieutenants. I've noticed that some have a colored name to others. That's how they con. That's like, are they a higher level than you? Like he's yellow, that other one was white. White being your level, yellow being higher, and so on and so forth. There are minions, and then there are lieutenants. Lieutenants have a bit more health, they do a bit more damage, and usually have better abilities. And above them are bosses, but you don't fight bosses when you're playing solo, because bosses, there's something different. They usually have at least twice the health a player might have, do twice as much damage. It's quite a significant step. And then above them are elite bosses. Yeah, you can beat them when you're on your own. When you're on your own, but you have to be properly built, and you have to use your inspirations, which are these things. I'm not using them. I don't need them. Just combine 3 of these into some endurance. Yeah, it's a great thing with inspirations. They give you like passive bonuses like damage or defense or accuracy, and they drop quite regularly, and you can combine them into more things. Pretty good. But yeah, elite bosses, you'll need to use a lot of inspirations. And then above them are arc villains, who they are tough. They are exceptionally tough, exceptionally strong. They will kill you in a hit, basically, if you can't deal with them fast enough. And then there are a few more above that, but they're usually special. Very special. Just beat up this guy. And there's no friendly fire in this game. As you saw, that ice shard just go right through me. To be fair, if there was friendly fire in this game, it would be a horrible game, because a lot of the end game relies on area of effect attacks. And believe me, there will be a lot of area of effect. It might as well just be city of area of effect. To the point that single target damage sets aren't really well received. All of it, they're good, but not much point doing single target damage when all the enemies have already been obliterated. The more better bit against like bosses, or some enemies, even their minions can be quite tough. Like they might have some passive effects. There's one group where every time one of them gets onto low health, he does this shout, and it protects all of his friends from being held, like where they can't attack or stunned or knocked down and stuff like that. And that's for every minion in the group. They do that. So it stacks up, you can't hold them, they get stronger and so on. There are some worse ones out there, but anyway, I finished this woman's arc, and now I finish up, I get a huge XP bonus, and now I can start on this next arc, which will be in the next video. We will fight some interesting enemies, we'll have a laugh, won't we? Until next time.